the generation that keeps showing up. Walking around this new America, I keep running into folks who remind me of something important. At 4 in the morning, I met a woman heading to her job. I asked her gently, "Mom, why so early?" She looked at me with tired but determined eyes and said simply, "Gotta get the kids to school. They need their education." I could see she was tired, so I asked with concern, "Does your back not hurt?" She smiled at me, the kind of smile that comes from deep wisdom, and said something that hit me right in the heart. "It is all right. Seeing my kids do well, that is the best medicine. You know, grandmas have a cure for everything, even heartbreak. Just mix it with hope and a little chicken soup." That one really moved me deeply. I met another woman at a diner. She told me she is 56, still working full-time, helping her son pay off student loans, and driving 3 hours every weekend to check on her mother. I asked her gently, "When do you ever get a chance to rest?" She smiled softly and said, "Rest. Maybe next year, or the year after. You know how it is," I said to her. "You must be exhausted." She nodded and replied, "I am, but I keep going." I smiled warmly and said, "Sounds like that might just be your generation's superpower." I met a man, 63 years old, still running his own small business. He wakes up at 5 every morning, same as he did 40 years ago. He told me, "People ask when I am going to retire. I tell them, retire to what? This shop is my life. My customers are my friends. I will rest when my legs give out, not before." Then I met a man who had worked 40 years at a company. I looked at him with respect and said, "Your back must hurt." He smiled, the kind of smile that carries both pain and pride. "Sure does, but I would not trade a single day off. That is when I fix the roof and help my daughter move. Sunday pays time and a half. That is how I put 3 kids through college. I do know your story. Your generation is not sitting back. You are still in the middle of it all, stuck between kids who still need you and parents who need you even more, holding the whole family together, even when your knees are begging you to sit down." Then I met a man at a hardware store. He told me he has been fixing things his whole life. Houses, cars, relationships, you name it. He has fixed it, he said with a quiet pride. I bought my first truck in 1979, a used Ford, rusted around the edges, but it ran. Exposed to rain, it still started every single morning. I drove that thing for 15 years. My kids learned to drive in it. We took it to the Grand Canyon once, all 5 of us packed in tight, no air conditioning, windows down, singing along to whatever came on the radio. I asked him, "Do you still have it?" He shook his head slowly and said, "No, but my son has a picture of it on his wall. He told me that truck taught him more about life than any class ever did." A woman in her early 60s told me about her first color television. She said with a nostalgic smile, "It was 1972. My father saved up for months to buy it." The whole neighborhood came over to watch. We sat right there on the floor, eating popcorn, staring at that screen like it was pure magic. I still remember the smell of that popcorn and the sound of everyone enjoying themselves together. I smiled and said, "Kids today will never know the kind of bravery it took to go fix the antenna during a thunderstorm." She smiled warmly at that. One grandmother, sitting by the window, told me something that painted a picture of a different time. In my time, a bag of flour cost a month's wages. We drove the same car for 20 years and thought that was normal. But somehow, we made it work. That is the thing about your generation. You did not just give your children things. You gave them memories. You gave them values that actually stick. You showed them what it means to keep going even when the road gets rough. Your generation did not grow up with seat warmers. Your seat warmer back then was just sitting on it long enough. These days, kids complain about slow Wi-Fi. You complained about your TV taking 5 minutes to warm up, and you survived just fine. Someone else shared a story with me about her mother. She said her mom used to wake up at 4:30 every morning to make breakfast before her shift at the factory. The kitchen would smell like bacon and coffee. That smell, she said, that was the smell of love. I did not know it then, but I know it now. I asked her, "Did you ever tell your mother that?" She paused for a moment and said quietly, "Not enough. I wish I had said it more." My friends, if there is someone you have not thanked lately, maybe today is the day. Not with grand gestures, just a phone call. Just 3 words. I appreciate you. Sometimes the simplest words end up carrying the most weight. Listening to all your stories reminded me of something important. Every lesson you have lived is a gift waiting to be passed on. And that leads me to what I want to share next.